Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, it's the Japanese maples, time for a haircut. It is the last day of July and summer's winding down. Well, you know, it's getting there. What's been interesting this year has been all the heat, of course. We've had 22 days at 90 or above, and our typical is 13. I did find out on the news today that 44 90 or above temperatures, highest on record, the summer of 1988. That must have been a hot one. I don't seem to remember that one. But this one I do remember. We're at 22 days at 90 and above, and on top of that now, we're dealing with this kind of haze. So thanks to the fire up in Canada and the fires out west with this horrible, horrible fire season, smoke is filling the air across the entire country. And for some reason, the wind patterns, the jet streams, and more from the Canadian fire, I believe, we're getting a lot of smoke in Minnesota. It seems to be hovering around our neck of the woods. So this is one of those mornings where you wake up and you look at the sun on the horizon and you can stare right at it. You should never do that, but you can look at it real briefly and it's just this ball, right? You can totally see the total shape of the sun with all the haze from the smoke. So we have another smoke warning out today, air quality warning for probably the 7th or 8th time in the last couple of weeks. And they're saying now that it's going to be smoky and some air quality concerns all the way through Tuesday. So it's going to stick around for a while. It is the 31st of July. That means that two of our main summer growing months have come to a close. The trees, a lot of them are in that summer dormancy period, right? They're resting. They're like, it's just too hot and we need a break, right? And so my Japanese maples, I've let go through this whole growing season. I'm going to make one trim now, get them down compact, and let them have that final push in August and September before they go into the cold frames for the winter season. So let's go take a peek at some of the benches and some of the trees and how they're looking here at the 31st of July, and then we'll grab those Japanese maples and we'll get started. It's the last day of July, so we're doing a walk around the garden, taking a peek at things from west to east. All the trees in the cabin area looking pretty good. The air layer on the maple, 6 to 8 weeks in there. We're still leaving that untouched. Don't know if I'll dig into that yet this August, or we'll wait until next year. Goldfish still loving life in the pond. The 9 bark trimmed once or twice this summer. Cotoneaster over here. Red twigged dogwood. And today we're going to clean up some of the maples. And this is one of the 3 maples that I've let to grow crazy all the way up to there. But we're at the end of July. Most of the deciduous trees have been lying pretty dormant, kind of doing that summer we don't want to grow anymore. So we are going to tackle the maples. My Satsuki azalea came back real nice. If some of you remember my cold frame on the cold snap of the winter, where we had 2 weeks below freezing temperatures and my cabin cold frame conked out on me for one whole day, I was most worried about the Satsuki. A little bit of dieback, we trimmed that off. Things are looking pretty good. It's springing back to life for sure. I've got 2 Kishu Shimpakus. They're doing pretty well. Did a little bit of pinching earlier on in the year, and they've responded pretty well. I do have 4 Japanese maples that I might be tackling. This is one of them. This is one that I pretty much chopped. Another update there, we chopped that one in the spring. It had some depth and I was worried about the whole tree being gone. As you can see, it came back nicely, and I've got 2 shoots that are just loving life. But they've slowed down too. I might trim those back. Bring everything in more compact. And on the new bench from this year, rearranged things a couple of times. Got my tall formal upright larch up there on the left. The Blue Arrow juniper, doing real well after the wiring early this spring and repot. But these are the 2 maples right here that we've let grow all season so far. They've got some nice growth too. These 2 were one tree. This is the top, and that's the bottom of an air layer. Go back and look at some of the old episodes. You can see the air layer of the maple from about 4 years ago. And so top and bottom, we're going to clean those up again today as well. The first 2 trees we're going to work on today, the Japanese maple that I air layered. So if we go back in time 3 or 4 years ago, I'll put the link in the description or in post-production, make sure I'm giving you the right information here, but air layered about 3 or 4 years ago. This is the bottom of the air layer, and this is the top part. So we had a little bit of movement here in this top part. I probably could have air layered a little bit lower, but this is the bottom. And so the air layer was cut right there. And so now this piece is almost healed up completely. I'll get you a close-up of that and you can kind of see. So here's a close-up of the bottom of the 2 maples. And as I peel back the branches here, this is where we cut it off. We chopped it off right here. So you can see the growth right there, almost completely engulfing where that cut was made. Pretty nice. And so this didn't have a ton of movement in the trunk, but right now here we've got that natural movement this way, then it wants to come up this way, so this is becoming the new leader. I more than likely will cut this one off unless I want a split trunk right there. So some decisions to be made on that bottom of the 2 air layers. So let's get started on this one first. We have a little bit of little heat damage on some of these leaves. Got a little crunchy ones here. Fortunately, I'm not sure why, I'm not real up on the Japanese beetles, but the Japanese beetles have left my maples alone, which is good. And again, this is the bottom of that air layer. Got a real low branch here. It's kind of an awkwardly growing one. Very sharp, straight up V looking thing with kind of an interesting bulge down here, not sure why. But then this one's over here. We could cut this branch off and make this the first primary branch. And I did not do any wiring early on, so it's a little bit late to wire this down and make it more heavy, old looking, but we could do a little bit of guy wiring or wiring at some point. But today, all we're going to do is trim these guys up. They're sitting in that summer dormancy here. We're going to clean these things up. So I believe that is the front of the tree. And we have that real nice curve right here. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to trim this thing up. All right. So in saying that that's the curve, we got this branch growing right on the inside of the curve right there. That's gone and this one's gone. We don't need those there. And I'm going to decide at some point if I'm going to keep both those branches, but both those branches growing right now is going to help thicken up the trunk some more. So we got all kinds of little spindly growth right here. It's not super strong, but holding on in there. Just clean up some of this and we'll let that continue to grow for right now. Because we have a branch here, and then a branch over here. If this grows bigger, we'd have kind of an every other pattern. You'll notice this is also almost a completely healed over trunk or branch cut. And then we have this guy right here that you can see splits here into a nice Y. This branch took off really big on this side, but this side's been kind of weak. So we're gonna cut this one down a little bit to size and try to make that a nice split into two there. So we're gonna see, that one's dead. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this down one more so that we took this off. So it's a little bit less cluster down here. And it has a nice heel right here. This actually almost healed completely closed. So just going to clean this up a little bit. And that'll continue to, so it has kind of a, it comes up here and then it's going to go down this way a little bit. And then we got the branches out here. I'm just going to cut the tip off. And so that's that branch right there. Now it splits into a Y right here, and this is a little bit kind of coming at us, but not too bad. I'm just going to leave that there so these grow out this way and again work to thicken the trunk. And then we move to this back portion of that branch. Cut out that dead piece. And I'm going to cut this one over here off too, so it doesn't, these don't compete. So here's some directional pruning for you. I got a branch going this way and branch coming out here. I'm going to cut this inside branch here so these won't fight with each other quite as much. I am going to cut off the tip. And I'm just going to cut off this big leaf down here. So we've cleaned up this bottom section quite nicely. Now this bottom section's not going to get as much light if we don't trim up here, of course, so we're going to trim everywhere. So we're going to work up the tree now. Again, I'm going to leave this little growth up here alone. This one has some brown leaf on it, so I'm going to cut it back. This has a nice piece of growth back here, trying to get thicker, but it's just not getting as much light. So as we open this tree up, that should be a nice little push for later on this summer here for the second half. Or the third, if you will. So right now I think I'm going to keep both of these branches here. I'm just going to go ahead and shorten all this stuff up. So this branch is growing directly opposite of this branch and it's on the inside. This one's thicker, but it's high up on the branch. I'm just going to cut this one away to open up this side of the tree. I'm going to cut this one because it's growing at the camera. And now we left this branch there. We'll cut the tip off. There's a little dead branch in here, and we'll cut the tip off. We'll let that do its thing over the course of this next, or the final third of the year. Now there is a branch growing straight up, kind of a weird angle back here. I'm going to cut that one off. Now this primary branch is competing with the main trunk a little bit. It's getting thicker. And it starts to clog up here. And it's all fighting for space. Look at all that, fighting for space. Now again, could I wire this down to make it more open of a tree, bigger of a tree? I certainly could. I'm going to go ahead and cut this tip off. I'm going to cut this tip off down to probably 6 sets of leaves there. Do the same here. Do the same there. And do the same there. We'll cut down to 6 pair of leaves here, here, and here. You know, 4, 2, 4, 6. Whatever silhouette you want to end up with. This will push out again, of course, and grow this here. This one I'll cut back as well. This one as well. Okay, so I could put it back on the bench and just be fine with this, but let's see if there's any more cleaning up we can do. I like the movement of this branch, so that's why I almost don't want to get rid of it. So it's giving this tree some interesting character. This could be the front, perhaps someday. little bit scar right there and some damage. This is a little bit a nicer looking trunk, so we should keep that in mind as we prune this up a little bit, not to cut away branches that we might need. This one is tangled up in all the branches there, not doing us any good. This one splits nicely up here. Just going to make it shorter. Make that shorter. Again, cutting some more tips off. Now again, this whole branch here competes with this whole part of the tree. I'm going to cut this branch growing off to the left so it grows a little bit more in the back and less competition for all these. And right now, if I were to cut this real short, you can see our main tree right there. And because I have this growth right here, you have this branch right here, this could become the new leader of this branch. It's awfully thin though, so we got to make sure that grows more. So I'm not going to cut this back too far, but I am going to cut off the big top here. I'm going to cut off this top one up here that's going straight up then too, to free this one up. Now we left all this other foliage on here to hopefully strengthen and get some more photosynthesis going down here. And we'll shorten this guy right down to there. So from this front, it's kind of the under middle layer. This is the top canopy, this is the middle layer, and this is my primary branch. We'll see. Just doing clip and grow right now, so we'll see how things take off in growth. This has 5 branches growing from the same spot. It splits nicely down here. There's this little whole chunk of tree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches from that area. And even if I cut most of it off, it would have been a little bit chunky up there. So we're going to cut that off and have this natural split right here. Then it splits into 3 right down here. Let's get rid of the inside one, keep the longer 2, and then there we go. And then this will clean up in time. Oops. All right. So that makes this one still the leader. I've got a new branch trying to grow right where these branches are growing. We're going to cut that off. I got one competing in the back right here. This one's competing. Take that one off. This was obviously the last cut point right here. So that's split real nicely. That one's trying to do some weird stuff. And I think we'll stop right there. Tree number 1. So I left this here to thicken up the trunk. We'll let this continue to grow, this second part. We've lightened all this up here to see which one of these branches are we going to keep for what purposes. And we'll do that next year. Maybe late winter pruning or a spring prune after the first flush of growth. So we'll put that off to the side. And we'll bring in the top portion of this tree. So the top part of the air layer, it's a thinner trunk, which would be expected. I'm going to pull into this part of the tree here in a moment, show you this. But you can see we got all this growth. This one has not been touched at all this year. But let's show you this Nabari. Now this has got a long way to go to become an old, majestic looking tree. But look at just after a few years, look at the spread right here. Starting to go down and swell this way, it's starting to swell this way. So this little stick, yeah, that was the top cut off. Because we cut it off and grew aerial roots, we already had a beginning, somewhat of a 360-degree pattern early on, but I've got this nice little flare that's starting to grow right at the bottom of that tree. So that's really good to see. And here's a peek at the foliage from the first 2 trees. We took quite a lot off, but these maples will do just fine. Shoot out a whole bunch of more branches and leaves. We'll be in good shape. Here we have a peek at tree number 3 and number 4. This one we did not touch all summer long, so this is all new growth this year, 2 feet plus. This one was trimmed back a while, and this was growth even during kind of the middle of summer here. This one was in a good spot and just loved growing. So even with the heat, other things slowed down and this one did well. But you can see on this one, it's 2 main branches, which doesn't have balance for the whole tree. So we'll cut this back now to balance, unless we're looking for sacrificial, and then we'll trim this one. We're gonna do this guy first. So this is a tree that I originally wanted to have a father-son type look. I had a branch growing right here that was a miniature version, and I was going to have the little branch here and this big swooping branch over here. And at some point in moving this tree, this one got bumped and it broke off. So it is now gone. We have this nice curvy trunk on this one, super fun. We had a critter decide it was something yummy. There's already about 1/8 of an inch of growth now in this inner ring, so we'll let that keep healing, and over time that'll disappear. But it's right smack in the dab of the front of the tree. We've got some nice root flare at the bottom, going in a couple directions, but we let this thing go throughout the year. Now this could be the front someday. It's kind of coming at us though, so it's not as desirable. This has a little bit more curve this way, and it looks a little bit better in general. We've got this wound now, but we're going to continue to look at it as though it is our front. We have a dead branch right here. Cut that off. This guy's growing right here at me. Right now I'm going to shorten it, see what it does. This is a fun branch growing off on this side one right here. It goes up and down and around and over, so it's super cool. Then back this way, but we'll cut that off down to there. Dead branch. More of a down low branch. So we have some low branches here. We got this little guy trying to grow right here at the base. This branch back here is not in a bad spot, but it splits right here and kind of gets in our way here and clogs things up. So let's go ahead and trim that off, and then trim it down to there for right now. Cleans this up a little bit. We still might get rid of this one completely so we can see the structure. We want to see the tree a little bit on its path to the top, right? I'm going to get rid of it right now. So now we can see that path a lot better. And I'm just going to leave this because it's such a fun branch right now. You can see all the movement in that branch. Super fun. So we'll leave it for now. You can see this great big wound from before, but it is healing over nicely. Gives this branch some really funky movement. So that branch isn't really big because all the growth is up here. But I'll cut off some of the dead stuff and see what we want to keep. This stuff is competing with the split. So if I let it grow this way too much, it's going to compete against all this if I save it. So I'm going to go ahead and make this final decision to cut this branch off. A little stump of a branch, which had a nice subdivision here. But now the branch grows up and over in this way, and we'll see what we keep. Directional pruning tells me I can cut this one off. It'll also maybe grow more this way for now. So we'll leave that for now. This whole branch could come off right here because of this right here. And I might even do that. We'll see after I cut some more branches off. This one's up front here, growing awfully strong. This one is as well. We're going to see this will be a nice little section of the tree. Almost have a little bit of a pad, if you will. Got some weird angled leaves growing here every which way. We can cut ones growing towards us a little bit, thin it out, and we'll just let that do its growing and see what happens here. Nice. So that's fine. We'll leave this here for the moment. And we got these big guys back here. You see it splits right here? This was a former cut right here. This split into two way down here, and this one went, whoa, way up here. I like the ramification, but this side is much thicker than this side. But now this double branches right here will help thicken this one up to catch up to this one. But this is still pretty high up on the tree. Again, if we want ramification to start down here, we would cut everything down to here and let it start to ramify. But I'm still trying to get the trunk a little bit thicker. We'll let these grow out a little bit more and we'll see where branches grow. Like this one started to grow in this spot right here. Not the greatest spot, but we'll leave it there for another season and see what happens. If it grows thick enough, maybe we lose this entire branch right here and this becomes the new leader of this branch. So we have options down the road. So we got that trimmed up. This guy's got to come way back as well. Good cutting material, super long and straight though. So we gave it a haircut. Now it looks a little thick up top, super unbalanced. If we come in here, we have some nice division back beyond this tip up here. So we're going to cut this tip up here, right there. So we just lost that for this, which splits right here. And I don't know how well you can see this on camera right now, but this splits. Let me cut these leaves off right here and here so you can maybe see it better. It splits right here into a V. So if I cut the inside one out, it grows that way. So this split and this split become more of the split. We got thick to thinner. This is really thick up here though. But we'll leave this for right now. And as you can see, this started to grow this way and now became the new leader there, looking really nice. We pull back, we take a look. Fun tree now. I've always liked this tree. This is a bummer of a scar, but we've got this movement up here, then it splits up here nicely. Now these two are in our face, but this one curves around so nice that it doesn't completely throw off the balance of the tree. But this could come off as well. We have a nice straight tree all the way up though, or not straight, but a little bit less curvy. And we'll cut this one off. This does keep curving back this way, so if I were to cut this branch off, it keeps going away from our viewership here. It's kind of nice. It's just that that's a little bit in our face. But if we change the front of our tree in the future, what if this is the front right here? And we look at it more this way instead of this way. That could become pretty nice. Now I have no branches growing from here to here. We've got this split way up here, so I could cut this whole tree back right here and rely on this guy right here and hopefully get some more growth on this branch. And I think that's what I'm going to do. This will be a really nice candidate for a cutting because it's got division already. It's got some movement already. We'll do some of that. We'll see how that works for this section of the tree. And that makes this a little longer as well, maybe too long. And we've got this split back here. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing there. So again, this is the kind of drastic cuts you can make with a deciduous tree typically, and especially this maple, because we know we're going to get a lot of growth coming back. We'll give it some more fertilizer this fall, but it'll grow here in the next couple of weeks here in the last part of summer. And we've got all our movement. This is still questionable back here. So the next big decision for me would be to cut this one maybe. But these two are similar size, so the tree splits here, so I like that they're similar, but these two are competing right now going in this way. So if this takes off and looks good someday, this one could come off and make room for this one. Or I cut this all right here and make room for this fun branch right here, and we'd get more growth out of the back side, pretty much guaranteed. But let's call it right there. Tree number 3. The last tree for the day is the one that we had some damage on earlier this spring, and we had a big chop right there. This was the tree. I don't think I have a still picture of this, but earlier when we worked on this tree about a month or so back, I talked about how this was chopped earlier in the spring because of some damage. So this was chopped here and here. We had 2 stumps of a tree, maybe a couple of branches right here. I might have kept this part right here. All new, all new, all new, all new. So this just grew like gangbusters. Now it's growing a little funky. If this was the front, which it is technically, I don't think the front. It might be the front. You don't see the scar then. And it goes away from us, so that might have been the front. This could also be the front. We see those scars though. We're gonna hope those are gonna heal over time. But we're gonna cut this back. So this is a nice branch. We're just gonna cut it back. Cut this lower branch off. And there we go. We'll just leave that to grow. We'll cut this one back. We'll cut this one back. This one. This one. That one. That one. So we have this fun angle of a tree here, this branch. It's going all over the place. Now if this is the front, everything goes away, we don't have to cut off as much. But if this was the front, we have all kinds of stuff staring at us in the face. What would we do with all of this? I think either way, this one gets lost. So that cleans it up a little bit. We are just going to cut this off right here. And when this thing leaves out from a distance, it looks like a miniature tree. It's just kind of a weird shape down here right now. And from this side, this leaf right here dangles and covers the scars at the moment. This one has that nice wide nabari down here, the nice flare out from that side or this side. So we know those are going to be our fronts at some point. Let's cut that back one more time. We cut this back 2 more nodes. I'm going to cut this one back to its final pair of node there. This one as well. One more on this one. And one more on that one. Go one more on that one, because this becomes our new leader. I'm not sure what to do with this guy right here. Branch is growing so interestingly bizarre, but this could become a leader right here, and that could become the tree. We cut all the rest of that in the back off. This tree has been through enough this year with the worry about the dieback that I think I'll just leave this here, and we will decide next year what we're going to keep and what we're not going to keep. Because by cutting all these tips off, again, we're going to spread that auxin around, that hormone that makes the tree want to grow tall. We're going to spread that down and make more push and growth. I could get a couple more branches growing off of this guy right here from our cut before. I could even freshen up that cut a little bit. I think I'll leave it alone though. And who knows what'll grow even here and here. We still might get more growth pushed down here on the trunk. So we'll leave that right there for tree number 4. there we have tree number 3 and tree number 4. So we are all taken care of with the Japanese maples for the summer. So we'll let these have one final push. We got all of August, all of September. We might even get growth into and through October before things really chill out for the winter. So 2 full months for sure to get this next level of canopy and growth as we get ready for the dormant season in the cold frame. My update for today is not really an update, but more of an introduction. But it's an update for me, because of course I've been watching the growth of this tree from the get-go. So it's been a maple show, so I pulled out my Trident Maple for you. It's my first Trident Maple. It's a new species for me. A lot of people love the Trident Maple species. And this is one of the trees that I have the privilege of working on with Peter T. from out in California. So Peter T. has been a part of the Minnesota Bonsai Society's fundamental program. So we have about 12 people that get to see Peter T. about 3 times a year, and he works with us on our tree. Now I have to show you the before shot. So let's take a quick peek at the before shot. I want you to look at this. So what you're looking at is this tree in the workshop when we were talking with Peter T. about pruning back, cutting back, chopping this trident, and repotting it with some heavy root prunes. Now some people trimmed the roots a little bit and put it in their box. We all made these boxes for this purpose. And some of us went to more of a bare root style. Now look at this tree. In the pot before the soil went in, there's hardly a root left. There's no fine feeder roots. This was about a 90+% root prune gone. See you later. Peter encouraged a few of us to do this and said you'd be just fine. So the tree went into the soil, and I've kept it watered, and it started really slow this spring after the winter dormancy period. And as you can see, I have a chop right here now coming back to the tree. There's the big chop, cut paste on there. We chopped it here and here and chopped it here. So you saw the tree. We can show that picture again, the before, and then we come out here now and the after. And after a slow push, this thing finally started to grow. Now, down below there has to be roots to support this foliage and for the photosynthesis to take place. So I'm pretty guaranteed that this is going to be some nice roots. Let me show you a close-up of this Nabari. So as you peel away a little bit of the soil, this tree, I loved the Nabari right out of the get-go. So when I went down into the nursery pot and looked at this Nabari, look at this nice flare right here. Super nice flare on all sides of the tree. So it's really nice and healthy and looking wide. But if you remember from the before shot, we can go back there right now. Look at how there were no roots down there at all. We cut them all back. But in the front here, we got a little bit of sphagnum moss that's sticking out right here. We had scarred or scored the inside of this part of the trunk. And then we put some sphagnum moss in here, and then we put the soil around the sphagnum moss. Now the sphagnum moss is going to hold all the moisture in this area, and it was designed to promote more root growth here in this little indent here where there wasn't as much roots going out this way. So we have this nice flare out here, this nice flare out here, and as I spin this around, look at the back side, everybody. Look at the back, look at this flare. It's one of my best root flares in Nabari that I have. So this tree is doing really, really well. This side was the only side that didn't have roots. So tucked in here is a whole bunch of sphagnum moss, and we hopefully are promoting some root growth. We're probably gonna let this thing grow, obviously the rest of this year, and we won't repot this till 23. I could look at this in 2022, next spring, and I've seen some amazing root growth on Trident Maples in just 1 year from some of our MBS members. So I could peek at this in the spring. I'm gonna get Peter's advice. I'll ask Peter what I should do. I'm thinking, because I'm a little bit more nervous, although it's grown from almost nothing, so anything I do have would be wonderful, and if I trim it back a little bit more, it's just gonna keep ramifying in the roots. But we'll ask Peter. But that's the beautiful Nabari of this tree with a little bit of surgery that we did here, and we'll see how that comes out in the end. What an exciting journey. Working with Peter T has been absolutely phenomenal, and I can't wait till he comes back in town. He's actually going to be judging the Minnesota State Fair Bonsai show that we put on at the State Fair every year. COVID knocked it out last year. This year we get to go and show the trees this is not a show tree, but Peter T will be back in town and we'll be able to talk trees, which will be fantastic. So as you can see, I've got some growth. Nothing grew off of this guy right here. I might be able to cut back right here and get some new growth there, but I've got, this is a whole new branch from down here, 1 season of growth. So I still got over 6 inches of growth down here, and all these little branches here. This is all new growth this year. This is almost a foot, probably a foot or more. And then we just got some growth on these guys. So there's life in the tree. The roots are establishing. I don't know if Peter is gonna have me just cut it back down to almost nothing again and let it grow again or not. We'll find out here in the coming weeks and or month or two. So there's my preview update, if you will. A preview because it's a new tree to everybody out there. But I had the original photo that I just had to show, and I didn't want to show everybody till I knew my tree was going to survive. It's surviving, so that's fantastic. I can't wait to see where this thing's going to go over the next 5 to 10 years. But hey, that does it. We got another show in the books here. Thank you so much for watching. Click like, subscribe if you haven't. Super excited. We're almost pushing on 1,000 subscribers. So thank you so much for all your comments and all your support. I do appreciate it. Keep the questions and comments coming in. As I always say, I do always appreciate that big time. Hey, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll see you all very, very soon.